Okay, I think we can start. I think this slide, the Uniting Europe and Mobility Data, is really very well summarizing the purpose of this project that we launched together 4 years ago. Why did we launch this project? Because, as you know, under the ITS directive, we adopted several EU specifications that organize the way transport data should be exchanged so that the final user, the citizen, benefit from the best services, information services, and also from the best traffic management for all modes. And when implementing that, when the real guys who really work on the field and need to translate EU requirements from this horrible EU bubble into real work, into real actions, they faced exactly the same issues. What is this data about? What are the standards that exist or don't exist yet? Which quality the data should have? All these questions that all of you in all member states should be solved, should be also solved in a harmonized way, because it does no sense that each implementer does the thing in a different way. So that's why after some 1 or 2 years of discussions and trying to convince that it's better to do the things united than separate, we launched this project, Napcore, involving all member states, also a lot of stakeholders, important stakeholders, because we are doing that also with the service providers, because we need to understand which data are necessary for which services. And that's why we started in this Napcore project, which has delivered already important results. And we saw in the previous session that very concretely, European experts in all member states talked about data definition, developed standards, looked at the necessary quality. What do we need really to deliver the right service to the final user? All these little bricks that are necessary to make sure that these data are available in a harmonized way on what we call now national access point, which were not initially in the directive, but they emerged as a necessary element, infrastructure of this overall effort of delivering services. So it's my pleasure to introduce this session, looking at what has been delivered until now, but also looking at the common vision. We have 27 plus national access points. What should be the ideal? What should be our vision in terms of level of service, in terms of quality of data, in terms of which data should be available? This we can, of course, solve through legislation, but it's also a bottom-up exercise, and the necessary information comes also for the ones who implement things. So I will leave the floor now to the real guys, the ones who work day and night on that, almost day and night, but we also all appreciate the commitment. I saw some figures, more than 500 experts involved throughout Europe in all these activities. This is already a real achievement. Thanks, and the floor is yours.
All right, Napcore, you might have heard already a little bit about it, and this is indeed the intention of us having multiple presentations on various aspects of it. And here's a summary you might have already heard, but if not, again, this is a short summary. So we are a project funded from the Commission. We are indeed covering almost all of Europe. We have a few blank spots, and we are also in discussions with those countries, because we indeed see our goal as uniting Europe also in those countries that are not EU member states. We are, as Gilles said, now ending our first funding phase. Next one is upcoming. And as far as we know, we are indeed the only pan-European or close to pan-European project that deals with mobility data, at least on travel information. This is really our unique selling point, if you will. And we are working on data standards. We are working on the national access point harmonization, and a few things will be presented in the next slides. uh, for those of you who don't know what a national access point is, this is a short summary, maybe to help you understand that it is something that is mandated by the ITS directive and the delegated regulations under the ITS directive. It's set up by each EU member states and other European countries, by the way. And it's a portal or a platform to access data on mobility data. And they are hosting or referencing data that can be used to create mobility-related services on multimodal mobility, on real-time traffic information, on safety-related traffic information, on data on parking, for example, to really make it easier to access data that is needed to fuel these services. It's mainly hosting open data, more or less, and mostly by infrastructure and mobility providers, but also more. But as a small, concise summary of what an app is, this might suffice. Okay, so we understand that the national access points are indeed useful for creating a home for mobility data in Europe. And now with Napcore, we are bringing those national access points together and actually bring those member states who are tasked with setting these national access points up together. And we have indeed achieved a real working and functioning governance structure that enables us to sit down together on a table and discuss various things in relation to operating those national access points and making them more interoperable and making recommendations on how the data should look like. All of this hasn't been or wasn't really possible before we started with Napcore. We couldn't call our colleagues and ask them how they do it if we wouldn't know them maybe from some other project. But this is really the platform where we achieved this great working mode to be able to, for example, deliver more than 150 milestones with more than 70 partners and more than 500 experts from more than 30 countries. I think this is indeed a huge achievement to have that, bring all of these people together and to truly work on a European view on mobility data. We have yearly events that are almost as big as this one, but they are quite focused on mobility data, and so this is also a unique event that have been that have been really great. So the next mobility data days will be next year. So look out for invite to that. We have created some joint position papers, also something that wasn't really possible before, but now we do have the representatives of the member states that are in charge of operating the national access points together. We have a steering committee that is able to work on those statement papers to express some common views on how we think from a data perspective, from a national access point perspective, the delegated regulations under the ITS directive should evolve. And this is also something that we did for the MMTIS delegated regulation on the safety-related traffic information delegated regulation revision that is upcoming. We are drafting, as we speak, something as well. Now, we have, as you heard, more than 500 people working in Napcore, and some of the people are right here next to me. And so I want to hand over for the next slide to my colleague, Tamás.
Thank you very much, Timo. In Napcore, I had the honor as well to manage the advisory board, and with the advisory board, we really tried to set up a body with which we as Napcore could work together on a strategic basis. So within Napcore, we are picking up the mandate to coordinate amongst the member states about the countries to implement the national access points. But of course, it is important that we are cooperating in the ecosystem with other partners, with other associations, with service providers, for example, and as well with other associations who are focusing on specific topics. As the areas that the delegated regulations are covering are quite broad, we drew the decision that we would focus on involving associations in the advisory board who could as well speak with one voice for a specific sector. And thereup, we ended with 21 partners in the advisory board, including a group on ITS private service providers. And we really could work together and interactively as well with those actors over the past 4 years. And you can see that as well demonstrating here by really focusing on reflecting the Napcore recommendations or strategies jointly, and really to figure out how to go forward in some kind of collaborative manner in the future. And for sure, that is something that we are going to continue, because for us, cooperation as well in the ecosystem with the other partners is very important. Next to the advisory board, which was more on a strategic level, we as well set up specific cooperation agreements to work on operational topics, for example, on cycling, on parking, but as well on road safety, and with the C-Roads platform for working together regarding CITS specifications. An important cooperation agreement was as well set up with Polis, where we are really trying to reach towards cities, regions, municipalities, as they are as well obliged to provide data on the national access points. And here we see a huge need as well in the future to put a stronger focus on that one. We are regularly having exchange on further strategies and how to really achieve a coverage of those actors, getting them informed and communicate to them as well. In addition, there was an agreement made regarding to safety-related traffic information, SRTI, with quite some organizations that have quite a position in the ecosystem, like TISA, for example, Data for Road Safety, the Car-to-Car Communication Consortium, DATEX2, which is part of Napcore, and the C-Roads platform. Moreover, I wanted to highlight that we in Napcore, we are only working on coordination and harmonization, so we cannot carry out the implementation itself. Therefore, it is important that we work together with other projects, initiatives, for example, corridor projects on ITS and CITS, like Meridian or MATIS or Cross4ITS, who are really then picking up the Napcore recommendations in order to implement those on member state level, on country level, so that we can achieve interoperability overall. By having said that, I would like to hand over once again to Timo, who will explain a little bit more about the work on data exchange standards.
Yeah. And I know that data standards are not always the most exciting topics, so I keep it very, very short. We have also a lot of other colleagues are much more expert on this. But we achieved an alignment of the data standards in a roadmap, and a combined roadmap of the data standards, TNITS and DATEX2. We even managed to merge them together into one standard family. So that really helps to make it easier to actually use the standards, and we have updated the standards. There's always work needed in order for making the standards fit for purpose, fit for covering new requirements that come along. So we've done that. For example, you see some of the topics here on traffic regulation, on alternative fuels, infrastructure. So all of that has been done quite extensively over the last 4 years, and this will continue with additional focus in the multimodal sector. Another super important aspect is metadata. So in order to make it easier to access mobility data in Europe, it's really important to make the data discoverable and findable. We know that there's national access points out there in every country, in virtually every country in Europe. There's also other mobility data platforms, and the first key towards harmonization and interoperability is to at least have the same language for describing the data. And with Mobility Decade IP, we published and worked on and published and now maintain the first metadata catalog specification specifically for mobility data platforms, not only national access points. that helps in doing this. And there's quite an interest also outside of Europe actually to on mobility decade IP. So if you are developing, hosting, maintaining, operating, developing any sort of mobility data platform, please take a look at Mobility Decade IP in order to make it more interoperable in Europe. Talking about interoperability, I want to hand over to some of the colleagues who've done a lot of more work on that, and Joao, it would be the next here.
So, hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm João Montenegro from Aramis, Portugal, representing here the leadership of Working Group 2 Napcore, which is focused on interoperability and level of service of the NAPs. And as Timo was saying before, the member states were mandated to create the national access points, but it did it very differently across the member states. So we had very different implementations in terms of specifications, procedures for publishing information, operational data exchange operational policies, different update and maintenance procedures, specifications for metadata, and everything was very different. So Working Group 2 had the tough mission at the beginning to agree on a common set of definitions. And for that, we defined a large set of features, some of which you can see in the left-hand side of the slide. We did that, and we turned them into KPIs so that they would be measurable in the future. Then there were more than 40 features, and we needed to group them somehow. So we grouped them in 7 categories. So there are features related to access, communication, data discovery, updated maintenance, and so on and so forth. And then we were requested by NAP operators and member states that they wanted to evaluate also their level of service. Yeah, they wanted to have an understanding on how well they were performing in terms of NAP features. And then we had to formulate a calculation method. So it was a simple method using the KPIs we built. And depending on the grade that you obtain over this calculating method, you would have an associated level of maturity. And the way that we applied this was creating what we call the NAP level service KPI framework. And we organized the second bullet there, so the self-assessment workshops. So those are annual events where we gather each other and we allow member states to self-assess their NAPs. One example is in the next slide. So you see there the results that we obtained for the last year. These are EU aggregated results, so everything is gathered in the same chart. What we do here is that we turn our framework into a questionnaire. Yeah, we translate the KPIs into actionable questionnaires. And then we disseminate the questionnaire throughout the member states. We allow them some time to respond. When they respond to the questionnaire, we get their data, we analyze their data, and we produce the visuals that you can see there in the slides. And as you can see, the graphs are not so easily understandable, but most NAPs are reaching intermediate level for almost all categories there. But still, you can see a lot of differences. The size of the boxes are huge still. And our mission that will remain in Napcore X is to shorten these gaps and make NAP features more harmonized. Yeah, so that's the mission that will keep going in Napcore X. These are some very brief summary of this task, but we have a few more tasks within Working Group 2. I'm referencing also 2 of them here. So we have also, we have a first definition of the NAP features, but we needed to provide NAP operators with a blueprint, yeah, a proper reference that they would use to either upgrade their systems or start from scratch. And that's why we created also the NAP reference architecture. So this architecture here, it defines all architectural objects across different layers and views. So you have, I added here, for example, functional, organizational, physical layer. Or in an organizational layer, for example, you define our roles. You define what the NAP operator needs to do, what's the role of the different stakeholders, the European Commission, data consumers, data providers, and so on. We define all functional needs, and we detail everything in order to allow proper development and allow NAP operators either to upgrade the systems or to create them from scratch. And this might have been the key outcome of Working Group 2, and we also continue to update and maintain this for Napcore X as well. And then there's another important highlight from Working Group 2, which is the NAP interoperability demonstrators. We were also requested, it was in the scope of Working Group 2, to produce, to showcase how NAP data could be used in order to exchange mobility data. Yes, so the practical use of NAP data. And we did that through the demonstrators. So we developed IT solutions using real-world NAP data, showing how service providers can leverage NAP data to exchange mobility data. And we did this and we showed this in live demos in a Napcore mobility data days. And we also consolidated and gathered everything in the same in reports with the main lessons learned. And these are some of the highlights from Working Group 2. I'm not going to extend too much here, but if you want to take a look into more results, everything's available in the Napcore webpage in the Material Hub. Yeah, and let me know if you need any questions later on. Thanks. Oh.
All right, and we also have some other achievements, and so very shortly also, Maria, please.
My name is Maria Stavara. I'm from Greece. I work for Shares, and today I will present you two other achievements of Working Group 3. So one of them is the data dictionary. But what is it exactly? So the data dictionary is actually an online repository which was designed to provide clear and understandable definitions for all data categories included in the delegated regulations. But why we started this work? Because very early we understood that there was a lack of a solid reference document that clearly defines and explains those data categories and in one place. So we understood that the way to promote data accessibility among the different NAP platforms, this is the way to speak the same language and all stakeholders have the same understanding. And this is the way we started this work. So at first, we provide some preliminary definitions, and afterwards, after many discussions and workshops with different stakeholders and ITS experts and standardization communities, we finalized those definitions, and we finally made the repository under the Napcore GitHub. So there is a dedicated repository where you can find all those four markdown documents with the specific definitions. And besides that, there are also information that needs to be exchanged for each data category. So if you visit the site, you will find all the definitions. And the other achievement that I have to present you today is the quality frameworks. So yeah, it's a big achievement, I would say, and the objective here is to raise awareness among stakeholders about the importance of NAP data and metadata, and also to offer practical guidance and support for managing the different quality issues. So the output of this work is the 7 new quality frameworks that we managed to develop. So you see here a quality framework for on-street parking data, alternative fuels data, MMTIS data, also for FCD, floating car data, UVAR, network topology, and cross-domain. Quality framework, they're all of them that are on the repository. There is a dedicated quality page under the Napcore site, the Napcore web page. So you will find, please visit the site to find also updates of the quality frameworks, and yeah, so you will find also more information of what we are going to do in the future. Thank you.
Another important result, what we have really achieved during the past years, is harmonizing the compliance assessments. So next to the national bodies, next to the national access points, as well national bodies shall be installed according to the delegated regulations. And here we managed to set up harmonized compliance assessment processes and to set up a national body coordination group where we really can share experiences and practices. Why is it? So that we really can achieve interoperable mobility services across Europe as well at a certain quality level. Moreover, we would like to facilitate compliance assessment for multinational stakeholders, which is of importance, so that the stakeholders as well have the opportunity not to work with 27 countries, but just with one body, more or less. We as well offered the opportunity for the national bodies to figure out how mature they already are in really acting on an operational level. So we developed a maturity assessment. And here it was as well possible to see that over the past years, the level of maturity quite increased amongst the member states. And last but not least, we, as national bodies, we have the opportunity to provide information and tackle the stakeholders regarding their obligations. And that is what we already did with developing frequently asked questions, for example, or organizing information events in order to disseminate across Europe what is actually required according to the ITS directive and the delegated regulations.
All right. Yes. Thank you. Now, looking a little bit ahead into the future quickly, we've heard Napcore will continue, and there's a need to continue because all of the Napcore partners, all of the stakeholders we talk to, the Commission, all of us think as long as there are national access points across Europe, there needs to be some sort of coordination. And this is why we are continuing now, first until the end of 27, but we are working on setting up a long-term governance as well to have, to be able to be in working mode even after that. The new consortium will be changing a little bit. We have even more partners with 77 out of 33 countries, and with the main goal of really facilitating the EU member state coordination on ITS directive data topics. But of course, as the NAPs are key and they're not only used in EU member states, also the other partners of the consortium will be considered especially. So as was said before, shift in focus will happen a little bit, or a much stronger focus will be taken on multimodal mobility. We've heard in the last session on that a little bit what we are working on, for example, the multimodal standards, NATEX and SIRI. Also, along with it, of course, a stronger focus on the stakeholder and domain management, because of course we are not doing this for the fun of it or only to check the box on compliance with the EU legislation, but we are doing this for a purpose, and this means that we want the data to be good and useful data, and this is why we need to work together with the stakeholders, both on the data provider side and the data user side, in order to actually facilitate the creation of good mobility services. Another item that we want to focus on is also to have some national implementation roadmaps to really put some of the Napcore recommendations on a roadmap to not only work on recommendations, but also put them into practice on a national level. Get involved. There was a question before, and I would really like to make this message and convey this message that we are very, very open to have you involved. We will set up a Napcore Academy where we will share some of our developments, some of the recommendations that we share, so that we have worked on and will work on, to really make sure that everyone in the community is able to learn about this as much. Of course, you can also get involved via your national partner, because if you're based in Europe, the chances are very high that also you live in a country where there is a Napcore partner, and also here's another way for you to get involved. We've heard about the Napcore Advisory Board, so maybe you're a part of a European membership organization in your domain that is already part of our Napcore Advisory Board, and if not, maybe we can think about including a national or a European level association that covers this domain. So let us know if that's the case. We've said before that we want to focus stronger on community and domain management in the various aspects and areas of the multimodal mobility field, but also the road and traffic community. Also here, we're very happy to have you involved. You can visit events and workshops, like for example, the Napcore Mobility Data Days. So we are very open. And later on, after the closing ceremony, we'll also have a Napcore reception at our booth. Also here, please drop on by. Yes, that's our presentation so far, but we have a lot more to say, but this is not for me to do. I want to bring up some people here as well who have worked with us, who are working with us, or who will work with us. And so I would like to have them for very short statements on what they have been working on, what they like about Napcore or don't like or wish for the future to happen. So can I start with Annette maybe?
Thank you, Timo. Yeah, thank you, everybody. My name is Annette van Veenendaal. I work for the Dutch National Road Data Portal, and I was heavily involved in Napcore, also in Working Group 1, where we have a look at all the new developments coming up to Napcore and to see whether or not we should do something with it, like positioning papers on SRTI. But one of the major changes was the revision of the real-time traffic information delegated regulation, which is quite a huge challenge to implement. So that was an action plan figured out within Napcore as part of Working Group 1 that we should align on how we implement public and private on this new delegated regulation. We had a strategic session, I think it was 2.5 years ago already, where we had a look at what should be the major principles to focus on. And there were two major principles. And one was, let's not focus on the data themselves. There's a lot of data categories mentioned in the delegated regulation, but let's have a look at the meaning behind the data. What do road authorities want to achieve with this data? And the other principle was, let's do it in public-private collaboration, because we have to have a look at the entire data value chain to keep this working and to stay working together. So it was a good thing that the advisory board is there, because in there were lots of industry players, as well as TISA and huge service providers like TomTom, Google Maps, HERE and Be-Mobile. So we reached out to them, and TISA also took the initiative to come up with a proposal, the 5-star rating proposal. And there were also organizations like Polis and CEDA. Now I'm forgetting some Traffic Management 2.0, where several road authorities work together and align. So we reached out to both sides. Please, do you want to join us in this alignment? Because let's not invent the wheel our own. And one element that was missing, that are the member states, because they are the one that have to transpose this European legislation into their national laws. So as the Netherlands, we asked who would like to join us. Let's join forces. And now we are with 16 member states in the RTTI task force, open for new member states who want to join. And together, as a sort of spin-off of Napcore, we want to have one voice to the industry, align on aspects like data quality, feedback loops, the mandate for both road authority as well as service providers in the RTTI-DR. As RTTI Task Force, we're aligning, doing a lot of work together with TISA, with service providers, and then we will present a proposal to Napcore, because in Napcore, the good thing is all member states are involved, so that will be the place for European decision-making.
Right.
Thank you, Timo.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe you can stay on stage. Can we continue with Christina, who is doing a lot of work on cycling with the Napcore?
Hello. So my name is Christina Buraga, and I'm from Cerema in France, and I represent the ambassador for the cycling with my colleague Muriel Peters from Netherlands, because the project Napcore wanted to focus on this topic to better consider the European objectives on sustainable mobility. So our main mission was to exchange information about cycling and to act as a contact point to give more visibility to the cycling in the NAPS. For this, we worked with an associate task force, and the cycling mobility we were building composed by managers, experts, industry, authorities. And we organized common workshops in order to collect concrete use cases and to discuss data types in order to analyze standards for infrastructure, for parking, for counting, and real-time information for cyclists. So the conclusion of the workshops allow to give a recommendation to the European Commission and to have priority on use cases and on the action to be achieved in the short and middle term. So in the future, we will continue to collaborate in the technical workshops, work in general with the experts on to facilitate standardization and to collaborate with the stakeholders at the European level to to develop a roadmap for the standardization of the cycling data in Europe. And I let my colleague.
Yeah. Matthias, can I ask you for TISA as part
sure.
of the advisory board?
I'm Matthias Unbehauen. I'm the TISA Executive Director, and we enjoy a long and fruitful collaboration with Napcore, in particular the DataX2 community. We just went through a very intense phase during the past 12 months, updating the harmonized message sets for the safety-related traffic information. The document has recently been published. We now also put some proper governance structure around this collaboration by way of a collaboration agreement between Napcore and DataX2, TISA, C-Roads, Car-to-Car Communication Consortium, and new now also the Data for Road Safety activity. But that's not the only thing. We also participate in Napcore events at the Napcore Data Days. We've been recently at a workshop on data quality in Greece. So yeah, it's been a fruitful collaboration, and the only thing I can say, to be continued.
All right. All right, thank you. Stay here, and maybe I see you in the back, Christian. Yeah.
I'm not so that, so. Yeah, so yeah, as representative of the service provider group, yeah, I also want to outline this really good cooperation we had and good communication, and I really hope we can follow up on this, because I think it's really yeah, it's a shared effort to get all those things done. So. And, yeah.
Thank you also for being short.
Yeah, you asked me to be short.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, you're a representative of a service provider. You might have said that. All right. And we also have other service providers. Maybe, Sarah, are you still here? Wonderful. Maybe you want to say a few words.
Hi, I'm Sarah Jane from Google Maps. We have been so appreciative of the collaboration with all of the Napcore team. We joined the advisory board in 2022 after a connection, I think, I learned today from the Danish Road Authority, from Christian, who introduced us to what the NAPs were and the challenge of DataX2. Rebecca in my team, who's here today, came running to me with this, we need to join Napcore idea. I'm like, Nap what? Like, what is this? And it took a while to help explain to our American organization what this type of organization was. And it's been a really fantastic few years of kind of listening and learning and sharing. And main areas of focus of, we've been working on is DataX2 and also on speed limits. And we now have a growing number of our 100 million edits to our maps a day coming from European maps. So thank you to all.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. We'll give it to the next.
Hi, Nerida from Transport Community. We are kind of new kids in the block of Napcore. So if you remember in Torino, I was mentioning that now the Western Balkans basically will start to set up NAPs and national bodies, and we've been discussing these days. We now have a consultant in place, and we are strongly relying, not just because we like Timo and Damaris, but also because they do provide us a lot of information. And also now I think Napcore, it's, even my director now knows about NAPS and repeats it everywhere it goes. So this has been very good, and I think we will continue because some of our partners like Montenegro and Bosnia, I think they also showed interest for the Napcore X. So that's just the beginning of it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining and listening, and all the best. Thank you.